Okay, let's start the session. Okay, so for our today's session is drugs. So, in this, what we will basically do for our overview, we will discuss about the path of addiction, what is addiction, how it could happen, and so on. Second is our alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, amphetamines, heroin, cocaine. We will discuss about these all drugs in detail. First of all, our path to addiction. So basically, firstly, we will know about what is drug. That's our topic name. So for this, we will discuss it first. So do you have any opinion about of yourselves? Ki what is drug? How will you identify drug? Okay. So basically, drug is that a chemical substance other than nutrients or essentially diet ingredients, which, when administered to an organism, produce a biological effect. Means it is a chemical substance which is not a nutrients or a substance which you need or your body need to consume daily. So it's a chemical substance administration in a living organism and it could sorry, there is a problem with the sound. Okay, just a second. Hello, are you guys able to listen? Now I'm audible to you all.
Yeah, for me, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, okay, then we continue.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, a drug is that a chemical substance other than your diet or your nutrients, just like carbs, proteins, fats. Other than this, it's that chemical substance which produce some biological effects in your body or in other organism whosoever consuming that thing. So drug may be legal or illegal. Legal, basically, we just say that caffeine for an example, and for illegal, we have different types of drugs, just like we will discuss, just like alcohols, heroin, cannabis, and so on. So drugs addiction usually leads to various effects. What kind of effects? It could be loss of control. You have disorders, impairment disorders, physiological stress, some distress, discomfort, your hormonal changes, or your body may get distressed for all these drugs activity. Some psychoactive drugs. What are these drugs? Basically, it's a type of drug which affect our central nervous system. This drug, what they do, they alter person's mood, their thinking, and their behavior. They are mainly disciplines, stimulants, and halogens. These are a type of drugs which affect our central nervous system. So, moving to our next slide. Okay, there is a question. What is addiction? How do you think the availability of substance like alcohol, nicotine, and so on, and our preservation drugs influence addiction rate in society? Okay, guys. So, do you have any idea regarding this? Any one of you wants to answer? Share your views, guys. Okay. So I'll tell you about it. So basically, addiction means a person or our body is consuming the same thing in an adverse way or in a continuous way. That is basically addiction is. So how its availability affects or influence the addiction rate. So basically, as we see nowadays, people are easily get addicted or increased by these drugs and fully dependent on them. So that means our body get addicted to a simple drugs, simple things that we are usually consuming daily. For example, a person consume alcohol. Okay. A person consuming alcohol on a daily basis get addicted to it. If the person is not getting alcohol, its body may show some withdrawal symptoms, just like body shivering. They got a panic attack, just like that thing the person could feel. So that is addiction. What is so that we discuss about it? Okay, it's a chronic brain disorder characteristic by physically and psychologically dependency. As we discussed, it affects our physical or a psychological dependency of a person. These are the examples such as opioids, alcohol, tobaccos. Okay, so what happened with the regular use of alcohols, drugs, and opioids? Also, if a person cannot contain and control these display negative effect or consequences, which we have discussed earlier about the roles of control, self harm, distress, discomforts, this kind of symptoms may be observed in a person who will consume regular these drugs or these harmful chemicals in our daily life. Okay, what are the factors? As we discussed about there is a negative as well as positive. Positive not in a way that you will consume it and your body will enjoy it. The positive effect is pleasurable feeling, and there is a negative effect. If your body is not getting that thing, your body will show you negative and avoiding withdrawal effect. But if you're daily consuming it, your body feel pleasurable feeling. So that's are the two factors on which addiction depends. Going to next slide. Okay, factors. So basically we're discussing about the three factors, that is tolerance, withdrawal, clues and triggers. So what is in this we will discuss. Let us see here tolerance. Need more of the drug for a same effect. What does it mean? It means that a person over time or you need to take more drug to feel the effect. For example, if your body wants alcohol, it feel pleasure. That is the pleasure feeling for your body. And your body wants daily alcohol. So that is the tolerance effect. Means your body is getting the same effect to get that pleasure. Next is withdrawal. It is a negative symptom when stop using drug. So basically it is an unpleasant feeling or unpleasant symptoms that occur when you stop using drugs. Means if you don't use a drug for a long time, your body may react with the symptoms such like headache, muscle pain, just all these body shivering. All these are the negative effects when you suddenly stop taking drugs. And last one is cues and triggers. What are these? So basically these are provoke addictive behavior. Means being in a place associated with drugs or alcohol. being around with other drugs or alcohol. What does this mean? This means that the things that you want to use drug or alcohol, or for being in a place where people use these, your body gets triggers to use these things around yourself. If you are not getting these things around yourself, you are not feeling comfort, you are not feeling pleasurable. So that is the cues and triggers. Moving to our next slide, that is a lymphatic system. So basically, lymphatic system is also known as brain reward system. It is, as you see from here, it is present in the midbrain. And what does this do? Basically, it's provide pleasurable feelings to you. All the drug system is controlled by this, as the circuit of neuron controlled by neurotransmitter called dopamine. It releases a hormone which is known as dopamine, which provides a pleasurable feeling to you all. So basically, brain reward system is made up of neurons controlled by a chemical called dopamine. As you see here, the system, what does the system do? It is responsible for emotional habits of a person, that activates that make you feel good, feel happy. You just enjoy that feeling of drug when you get it. So it encourage pleasure, like drive healthy behaviors such as eating and socializing, helping habits, generate habits, learn behavior through the feeling of pleasure, means tendency to eat your favorite food or an high induced drugs when you are getting into a useful drugs. So here is, you can see here is a statement. Not all drugs used to lead an addiction. What does this mean? So basically, that using drugs don't always result in the addiction. Some people might use it as a occasionally. For example, if you see some people are not taking alcohol on the daily basis, they just enjoy it on some parties, or whenever it's some a biggest occasion for them, they just taking a little bit of alcohol at that time. So at that moment, the alcohol is not leads to addiction. It's just to pleasure or to socialize themselves. So the statements is very in that way that not all drugs used to leads to addiction. Moving to our next slide. Okay, we have some questions regarding to this. So our first question is, what role does dopamine play in brain reward system? Do you have any ideas about it? Any of your points you want to share? Okay, let's, I'll tell you the answers. Okay, let's we discuss about it. Basically, as we discussed, dopamine is a chemical released from our hormones, which give us a pleasurable feeling. It's make us feel happy. So that is the main role of dopamine in our brain reward system or in our lymphatic system. Okay, moving to the next question. Can you think of situation where drug use might not active the brain's reward system strongly enough to cause addiction? So basically, what we are talking about in this question, we are asking, is there any situation where drug might not activate to cause addiction? So yeah,
I
there are
think,
many.
yeah,
Yes,
I
please.
think when you are like in party and you drink some like alcohol, I think drugs will not might active with your mind and make you addicted with it. I think like this.
Yes, it's absolutely right. When you are on some You are not taking a drug as your addiction.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you are enjoying some parties, you are taking a little bit of alcohol or some other drug consumption, but not make it as your addiction. So that is it might not active your brain limbic system. Okay, both of these have the same statements. Third, also that not all drugs used to lead an addiction, as we discussed it earlier. So moving to our fourth, that what factor might influence when drug use to lead addiction? So we have discussed only two factors here, that is a positive or a negative. But what might influence it? Some are environment, some are genetics, age, mental health, or the types of drugs we are consuming, or in our environment, what type of drugs is basically consumed by the people. It also affects. So there are some several factors. Nowadays, peer pressure is also a factor which influence our drug addiction. Okay, moving to our next slide. Mimic and imposters. What are these? So basically, drug abuse is act like an imposter in the brain. It's copy or block some messages normal sent by the neurotransmitter actions. They can change how neurotransmitter are how neurotransmitter works, or they release or stop the effect of brain reward systems, or affect our normal decision making. Means a drug stops our nervous system programming, or it may interrupt our nervous system programming. We are not able to think properly. We are not in that condition. Sometimes we could take a correct decision when we are in the effect of a drug, so that it's act as an imposter. So I'm moving to the next slide. Okay. So that is how vulnerable looking at the risk factor. So basically, we have three important factors. First is internal. So basically, a strong influence in adulthood. Here we conclude it as a genetic factor. Means your parents or some your or families members are including in taking the drugs. So that might be a genetics. Yes, you will able to consume that thing also. Some external factors, that is during childhood and adolescence. It affects just like our stress, our social environment, how our peers going to use your drugs, and how our environment, socially environment towards it. And other is the biological factors, that are gender, age, which gender you are belongs. As you can see nowadays, uh, males are consuming more, but towards the ancient time to the today's world, women are also consuming the much higher rate of alcohols or drugs as that of men. Age is also a number, that our teenagers are consuming more towards it than the adulthood or some old age
Hey,
people. Yeah, please share.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, you mean like I can be addicted to drugs because just my genetics, because I took genetics from my father like this. I can be addicted
Uh,
from this reason.
yes, it may be also affect, as you see, it's an internal factor. Sometimes a gene may be dominant
Yeah,
to
yeah, I
other
mean
one.
this.
Yeah, that's the same thing. If your gene is dominating, then you might be towards that. But at the same time, if your social environment is not involving in that thing, you might be get rid of that easily.
Yeah,
So all the factors is including in this thing. Okay,
Yeah, I get you. So,
okay. So let's move to next slide. So our first slide is opioids. Uh, So basically, what is this? Opioids is also known as opium or morphine in generally. So it is extract from a poppy flower plant. It can bind to an opioid receptor, which switch to a brain reward system or flood synapses with the domain pleasure. Means it releases basically dopamine into our lymphatic system or brain reward system, or it extracts from a poppy flower plant its juice. Its journal formula is C70H19NO3. So basically, it's a structure. It's a simple chemistry. You can get it here. Moving to our next slide. Okay, its type or its effect, basically. Two types, natural and synthetic. It may be if you are getting these drugs, just a minute. Okay, let's start. Okay, okay, its types. Endomorphin or synthetic types. And naturally we get it endomorphin type. What it's basically do, it's control our motivation, emotion, food intake, pain tolerance. All these are controlled by a natural intake. Or this, when we get it from a synthetic, we get it in a various form, just like heroin, codeine, oxycodone, phenethylamine, or such as a pain medicines. These are all the types of opioids or a morphine. So basically, its uses is cough syrups, you get it for diarrhea stoppage, some pain relief. Basically, in medicines, you will get it a more. And overdose of it may get stoppage of breathing. Some people may take it as a pain relief, but overdose of it may cause death to that person. Okay. Overdose epidemics. What happened to the overdose? So basically, the number of opioids overdose deaths have quadrupled, with over hundreds of Americans dying every day. These are the records of America, that people take it as a painkiller or some other narcotics, some other prescription wise they are taking it, and the number of death of the person is increasing. So this crisis basically increase the use of legal prescription opioid medication, and also in 1995 including the long lasting vision of oxycontin, which also is a cheaper medicine than the heroin as you get it. So at that time it get a street medicines, you will get it on a street by giving some money, you can buy it from anywhere. So after the increasing in death number, prescription is more important nowadays, as we saw that in any other medicines if we discuss. So basically, addiction is not an abuse, is the main drive to epidemic. If we are very carefully about what we are taking for a prescription of doctors, so a drug may act as a medicine. But if we are consuming it by our own pleasure, it may be cause to addiction or may cause death of that organism. Okay. These are the death ratio of the Americas. You can see the death increasing with the number of the people as population increase. So what are its treatment? Basically, some antidotes we will give, such as a synthetic drug, naloxone. It can bind to an opioid receptor to prevent opioid from binding, can reserve the potential of overdoses, or can prevent from limiting our cravings. These are the antidotes of the receptors, such as methadone and binephrine. These are the stimulus opioids, which reduce the withdrawal system from the other opioids. And psychosocial approaches. What are these? These are cognitive brain therapies, some kind of therapies which combines with the drugs to get rid of them. So our next topic is about the alcohol. So, but what is alcohol? We will discussing about it. So basically, some general thing about the alcohol. It's refers to the organic. Sorry, it's referred a group of organic compound characteristic by one or more hydroxy group attached to a carbon. As you can see, here is a carbon bond, and here is an attachment of hydroxy group, that is OH group, attached to a carbon atom. So this basically forms an alcohol group. Most common type of alcohol that is consuming, that is ethanol. Its general formula is C2H5OH, as we can see from the structure here. How it could be produced is it produces by the fermentation of sugar by the yeast action. When yeast get acted on the to make the sugar fermented, then the ethanol is produced. So ethanol is psychoactive substance which affects our central nervous system. So what kind of common types of alcohol drinks we consuming nowadays? That is firstly most common beer, wine, and some sprites, that is hardcore liquids. So basically beer is made from fermented grains like barley. It has a very low alcohol content, that is about 4 to 6 ABV, basically, that is above the volume. So, as you can see that the beer is mainly from the fermented grain. It doesn't mean that these are good as these are from, you can see, from the plants based products. No, if you're consuming it on a high scale, it may be cause addiction to your body. So as you can see, lower alcohol content, about 4 to 6 alcohol by the volume percent, flavored with hops, some to add bitterness and aroma. Some flavors were added to it to get rid of its aroma and some bitterness. So second is our wine, which is produced from the grapes. As you can see from, basically it's produced from the grapes, but nowadays you can get it from a different fruits or some other fruits. It's have a little higher content than the beer. That range is 12 to 15% of alcohol by the volume percent. And our next is prices, that is hardcore liquor. These are increase their alcohol content, that is exceeded 40% of above 40 to exceed from the 40, that is 40, 50, 60, might be any kind of that alcohol by the volume percent. So it may commonly be whiskey, vodka, rum, and tequila shots. So consuming in the small quantity, high concentration of alcohol. You can consume it in a small quantity and you can get a high alcohol content in them other than beer and the wine. So these are some common types of alcohol drinks. So here we are, as you saw, why alcohol is important to understand. Why it is important to understand. At nowadays it's a global perspective, or globally it is consuming by man and woman also, as you can see from this graph status of 2019 men and women capacity. As you see, the man capacity as well as nowadays women capacity is also increasing in consuming of alcohol. Some young adults nowadays in the late adolescence or continuing the mid 20s are commonly engaging in consuming alcohols, drinks. Many countries, it's a social norm in colleges and universities, or some social pressure you can get it from market to media portraying alcohol, describing it as a social and influencing the young adults, or in some religions also it will consume. So basically nowadays young adults are get indulged in getting the alcohol. So now we'll discuss how alcohol works in the brain. So it affects our central nervous system. Basically what we will do, it slow down the activity and communication between the brain cells. It enhances a neurotransmitter which has an inhibitory effect on the brain, means that makes the brain less active.